Would you like to hear about it?
Whenever you're ready, sir.
I actually appreciate questions. It makes any presentation better because I can sit and monologue all day long, but if there's interaction, it's always better. So, all right, we can go ahead. Did you start the recording already? All right. So, from Secureworks, Dan Ryken, pleasure to meet you. If you have any questions, I certainly will be available once we're finished here. Otherwise, we have the booth downstairs. Here to talk a little bit about our security monitoring platform. So it's called an XDR, which many security vendors out there is the term that are using. It can mean different things to different vendors, so I would encourage you to kind of take a look and understand what Secureworks means. Well, a few things I'll highlight is we take in data from your endpoint, from your cloud providers, as well as from on-prem solutions, network switches, routers, firewalls, bring all the logs in together. Very much SIM-like in that regard. And in fact, I like to refer to almost more of a next-generation SIM than a full XDR. The difference is the traditional SIMs have been fantastic at putting out nice, pretty reports. Taegis is fantastic at finding threat actors, right? We realized that the traditional SIM model gave the great reports, and we've got reporting. It's certainly a part of the product, but we wanted to focus on finding the threat actors and then responding to them quickly. So what you're seeing here is the default login when you come in. What most of our customers have, they're our managed providers, so we've got our SOC on the back end doing the work. And so when they interact with the tool, they can be active in the tool. Anything that our team sees, our customers see, we don't hide any of the data. The secret sauce is in some of the detection capabilities, but we make all of the data available to you so that you can analyze it and do what you would like with it. You can very much see why our SOC analysts came to the conclusions that they came to. That data is in there. So what a lot of customers will do is when our SOC finds something, they'll get notified of it. And our SOC is going to see an alert, create an investigation out of that. What you see in this demo environment is some of the investigations that have been created. When they log into that, there's going to be key findings, impacted assets, recommendations on what to do about it, technical details about what they've seen. And then if you go to the evidence tab, this is where we show all the evidence that's there. So in this case, for this particular one, there were 38 different alerts that were added into the investigation, along with different events that were also added. And then one of the newer pieces that we have is basically all the entities involved. I'll just click on this page and it's going to show the different entities themselves. But we'll also put that in a graphical representation for it. And this has a lot of entities involved, so the graph is never, it's going to look a little bit unusual. But what I really like to focus on when you open up the graph is it highlights some unique pieces. You can see very quickly some devices that are more central to the particular investigation that was created. On the right-hand side, these are all the individual processes or entities that we've mapped out. And let's say in this particular host, if our SOC analysts, if our customers wanted to take action, they can actually isolate the host very quickly. We can block processes with the click of a mouse, right? You don't have to pivot to your endpoint protection tool. We have a tool that we provide from an EDR perspective, but we also partner with CrowdStrike, Microsoft, SentinelOne, Carbon Black. So if you're using those tools already, there's no reason to deploy another agent onto those environments. We take the data in and then actually use their tools to take in response actions. So that's what we're doing from the investigation. If you ever have any questions, we have a chat feature built right in. You can be talking to our SOC analysts within about 90 seconds. It's a fairly quick SLO from a response time. So very quickly you can just sit there and talk. And you're not talking to a lower-end person who's going to triage it. You're actually getting into our SOC, right? You're talking directly to our seasoned engineers. In order to get into our SOC, you have to have some background and some experience on the SOC side. So they're not new guys coming straight out of college that you're going to be talking to on the back end. Secureworks, one of the key pieces that we have from our solution is our counter threat unit, right? And this is where Secureworks produces our own threat intel. So if you have threat intelligence coming from other sources, we can ingest that. But within the tool, our counter threat unit is creating a lot of that threat intelligence itself. You can have that sent to you on a regular basis. It's all available with the subscription to the tool itself. You can search through any of the intelligence going back for more than a decade. And you know, I like to pull up one of them. This is the Sunburst malware that was used, I don't know, it's about 3 years ago now, to hack the Exchange servers. Not all of our threat intelligence is going to be this deep, but if you wanted to geek out or needed to really understand what was Sunburst doing, you know, we make that full analysis available to you and all the different gory details for those that wanted to consume it. On the flip side, we'll do more high level. And so you can just understand, you know, very quickly, how do you respond to it? What do you need to do? And do you need to engage and bring in more people? Yeah, please.
Just an evidence side, so you mentioned the evidence early on, you mentioned the threat intel. Where is that coming from? Maybe just other logs, great, like Holcombe, where is your threat?
So could you repeat the question one more time, where the evidence is coming from? So,
Yeah, so as you guys are sourcing data,
yep.
compare what you're seeing against your events. You just mentioned your own threat data lake, your own threat intel. Is that something you're part of over the years?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So just to repeat for the recording, where is the evidence coming from? The telemetry? How are we making our conclusions? So Secureworks has been in business for over 20 years, and so we've got years and years. We're actually tracking over 250 threat actor groups. We know how they operate. We know the techniques that they use, and so when we get the telemetry coming in, we have specific detection algorithms that are actually looking for some of those techniques to be used. Obviously, from a 0-day and new threats, you know, there's just behavior that's going on there. But we are matching up everything to MITRE. And so even for those known threats, you know, we're looking at the different pieces, able to, you know, see the threat actors from a different perspective, right? I don't know, you know, some of our customers understand what MITRE is and love it. Some of them understand what it is and don't care about it. Others have no clue who they are. We do match up to it just because it's more of an industry standard anymore these days, and it really helps from an overall understanding perspective. You know, those that really get into it, we got a tool and say, all right, if you're using Revel, right, we can tell you all the different ways that we can detect a threat actor using that, and we'll show them to you, right? So there's multiple different steps there, but most people don't geek out quite that much with it. Thank you for the question. And even in here, right, so we're constantly adding, our counter threat unit is constantly adding new detection tools, right? And so we'll let you know what we're adding on a regular basis. And so most of the time this doesn't get updated on the weekend, but you can see here just the different detection capabilities that have been added to the tool over the last few days and hours. And so we provide that information so you understand as new threats come out, you know, how is Secureworks able to do something with that and see it, right? You know, obviously from a historical perspective within this tool, we keep 12 months worth of data, so that it's standard with the tool. So you've got that going back. If you do have some of those compliance reportings that require that, it's part of the tool, part of the initial offering. And we'll take it and we'll go back and look at some of that older data. It's not just, you know, once in, once out. We analyze data. We actually, with our detectors, will analyze data over time, right? So from an authentication perspective, we have a detector. It logs, it knows when I log in, whether that's through Microsoft 0365 or logging into my laptop. Recently, I tested this inadvertently with a tool I was having some problems with. I was working with a tech in Atlanta. I live in Illinois. Had another tech that we were working with in Romania. And I had remoted in and used a browser on each of their machines. Within about 30 minutes, I had authenticated to Microsoft on their machines. And, you know, couldn't have traveled that, and the tool actually kicked out right away. From a Secureworks perspective, it revoked my session, right? And I kind of knew what was going on there. So we have capabilities built in to even automatically respond to it. In that case, you know, to keep things a little bit easy, I reached out to our IT group and said, hey, you're going to see Tay just got lit up. This is what happened. And they said, oh, thank you very much. We also have another threat detector. We had a lot of information that we learned and saw, so we did have some customers that either we helped from an incident response perspective or from a Taegis perspective, hit with the Kaseya ransomware incident, right? Where that one happened really quick. When our data scientists started culling through that data, we actually realized that they could see a pattern, I say we from a Secureworks perspective, in how the threat actors were operating. They'd type a command, wait for the results, understand it, and then type another command. command. And we gather all the process events. And so we noticed a pattern for that. So now we have a detector that doesn't hit very often, but when it does, it's highly efficacious because we can tell threat actors are working on the machine. So we use a lot of data analytics. We've got generative AI in it now. We're very much based on, our SOC analyzing the data and building out those investigations. But to be honest and frank, in order for that to happen quicker, we're using generative AI, right? When we get regular events coming through, there's no sense in a human having to look at that and do the same 20 steps ahead of time. We've automated that so that when it goes to our SOC analyst, they've got that data in front of them, can analyze, and we can respond much quicker to the tools. And so taking advantage of that, Taegis is cloud native, so it sits in the AWS stack. We've got tight integrations from AWS, Microsoft, a lot of API integrations to some of the different cloud providers out there, Google. Take that data in, analyzing that along with everything else. And then the ability, one of the key things is that response part from an XDR, right? Everybody wants to be able to respond. We do certainly have those capabilities. Highlight some of those just by sorting through this and going to the list view, right? Yeah, any one of our partner tools, we can isolate hosts, we can stop processes from running on machines. We have integrations from Microsoft where we can, again, force the password reset or revoke sessions, integrate with ServiceNow and a lot of the ticketing systems. So if you need a ticket created within your own environment from a tracking perspective, that's there. And we now have the ability to talk to on-prem LDAP servers, right? So if you're not fully federated with the cloud, we can talk to your on-prem servers. We can add IPs to blacklists on Palo Alto firewalls or Fortinet firewalls or Cisco Meraki devices. So again, just anything that allows us to respond quicker. More recently, we have a license from a generative AI perspective I mentioned for our customers that are a little bit larger and do a lot with their own AI. We've got an integration where they can add AI from their own perspective and take advantage of that. That is a bring your own license, but the capabilities are there. So if they've got their own private version of AI, certainly ours is private and not shared to the environment that's out there. I had mentioned bringing in, oh, go ahead, please, question. Yeah. Yep. So the question was from the playbooks perspective, how many of them are automated and some of the different companies that we integrate with. So yes, basically early on we had API integration. So if they had an API, we were writing to that. It makes it easier. We do have some that are fully automated from within the system, right? And so we can isolate a host or lock or force a password reset without any human intervention. When it's a specific alert that comes in, if it gets classified as a higher critical, we can take automatic action. We can also set it up if a customer is not quite comfortable with that, they want a human to look at the context of it, we can set it up so that a SOC analyst does it or their SOC can do it when we've passed it off to them. It really comes down to a little bit of choice that way because not every organization is going to want to respond the same way. And we've got those capabilities built in from one perspective or another. So yeah, and a lot of that, not all of it's AI driven now. If you have some internal tools, again, that you want to be able to respond to that maybe we haven't written a playbook for, we have the ability to write custom playbooks so that we can talk to some of those other internal tools. Really, it's cloud native, so it doesn't have access into a customer's environment. It's kind of sent to us and we analyze and let you know. But we do have a log collector tool, right, from syslog perspective. So we're gathering switch router information and firewall information. And if there's a place where you can go in and configure those so that now the portal can go back, use that as a gateway to talk to your on-prem devices if you want to allow that to happen and enable those playbooks. You're welcome. One of the other things that we have on here is even from an auto investigation. I mentioned, we're using the generative AI to create automations and to do some of those investigations, analyze data, and then pull it out. Again, maybe you've got some custom use cases that we wouldn't necessarily see as a threat actor working in your environment, but for your organization, it's something that you want to know and very specific to you. You can create your own automation that'll create an investigation, even pull in some searches, run some playbooks, and then send you a notification and say, hey, this event happened, this investigation was created. Now when you log into the system, you can again go to that investigation and it's going to have data there for you already. You don't have to go start doing all the different searches. If there's a specific medium level, so the Secureworks SOC is going to look at all high critical events. If you have there's a specific medium event that comes in that for whatever reason you want to respond to it in a particular way and the Secureworks SOC isn't looking at it, again, you can build that automation to look for those very specific unique cases coming into the environment and respond to them as you would like. From a reporting perspective, right, I mentioned it's in that regard, it's not like a traditional SIM. It wasn't designed around reporting first, but we certainly have that over there. And as you create reports, we've got some of the canned reports. And it is fully from an advanced search perspective. You know, we have our own SQL query language. It's not that much different than everybody else, and some of those that have experience from an SQL really enjoy it and can manipulate, gather the data that they want and find it quickly. Certainly, we have encouraged customers to take advantage of the build with me, and we make that easier. And what I always say, especially if you're searching for some environment, take advantage of that where you can talk to one of our SOC analysts. If you're struggling to build out the query, our SOC team knows how to do that. They do it very well. They're doing it constantly. And so chat with them. You'll get an answer within a minute or two, and then you'll be able to continue on and look for the data that you wanted to analyze and look at. That is in a nutshell. I kind of moved through it very quickly, but that's what I had for you. In this particular case, we do have the ability to build custom parsers as well. So if there's not a particular integration that we have today, we can create that, write that, get that into our schemas and analyzed with the rest of the data in the tool. Again, very sim-like in that perspective. And you had mentioned playbooks. You know, this page, it grows regularly and is an eye chart from where you're sitting in there. But again, it just highlights all the different tools and capabilities that we're adding so that we can do that response. Because really, analyzing the data, great, that's fantastic, but we got to be able to respond faster, right? The threat actor, the dwell time is continuing to go down. We've got to be able to find it quick and respond quickly. So that's what I had for you today. Thank you very much for your time. Any more questions? Want a personal demo, stop by the booth.
This is that. You guys, is it practice where you guys are partners?
So we are partnered first now. So if, we do have some large existing customers that might be direct, but anything new, it's all partner driven. So do you have partners that you work with already?
Yeah, Splunk and their own.
Okay.
Out there. I've seen trusted Secureworks out there for years.
Yep.
Think about, I mean, the client's been service for 2 lights, and they were sat down. So it's similar.
We've got a Splunk heavy forwarder, right? So we have actual customers that they use Splunk from a business perspective. If you got to have the smart people to do the search queries in there, right? And if you've got them, then you know, hey, yeah,
I see more Splunk implementations not go wrong. Right? They buy it, they get a couple of guys that are high on it.
Yep.
Don't dedicate the time to it, and it becomes pretty data pool.
right. Which is why we have the heavy forwarder, right? Because if you can afford to hire the smart people to use Splunk, it's a fantastic tool. It's still the best out there, right? Not everybody can hire all those smart people. There aren't enough smart people. And this tool was designed to say, hey, look, there's other people that need to be able to go through that data and analyze it quickly. And that's what this was designed for. So.
Playbooks are just becoming more and more part of
The nice thing is, right, and where we're coming at it is, you know, there's a lot of SOAR tools out there, but again, you got to be a smart person to be able to write to use all those different APIs. So the easier, the more templates that we can have that take the coding away from the customer is really what's helpful to that is making those playbooks as easy as possible because we're not all writing code. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.